Look at the big hole in front of you. This is the gun you fired last time. The angel crawled up, and he growled, "My hand." My hands are screaming, "I must kill you." The photographer was held by the sound of folding, causing the vibrations to shake. You asked not yet. He's constantly growling. Take out some more balls and talk about it. I threw out a bullet and said, "I'll give you 6 more. And threw out 6 bullets. I see dangerous bullets coming. The police officer immediately shut up. Here's the Ming with the sword. The ghost sees you okay. The ghost looked over anxiously. 6 bullets exploded. It's a giant explosion. The angel's body was engulfed in smoke. What's the ghost screaming about? And the scout was thrown out screaming bitterly. The ghost saw me scream so loud. He came over and said, "You have time to worry about others. The next dead person is you." They both yelled at each other. The angry ghost shouted out loud. And then it starts to transform. La Min and Segment, the sword stalled, both startled. Both were stabbed by his spikes. The ghost has turned into a giant. It screams death for me. I cried out, "Oh, it hurts." The photographer saw that, yelled out another name. So he widened the distance. At the same time, shout out loud. You use the light. 2 streams of magic light and dark lao. To the angel. He quickly dodged. 2 flashes of action. Ghosts opened their mouths, sprayed out a purple poison. When you saw this, you were startled and yelled. Looking at the poison spraying down on me, he screamed poison. The ghost leaves are sprayed with a lot of purple poison. The plague hits the snow and ice very quickly. An entire area of ice and snow has been melted by the poison. The angel said, "Where are you going?" "Over here, the sword has been woven." He put it in his mouth. His wounds have also been healed. The angry sword says, "Hateful. Too careless over here." He also put medicine in his mouth. And I watched my wounds heal. Piece of sword. The sword jumped up and asked, "If you are injured, you do not need air conditioning." He looked at the sword in surprise. He can still fight. He looked over there. He saw the fireballs go down. It turns out that this is the rocket of the universe. You see these attacks. The bartender is using the word fireball meteorite. The cold ghost said, "Don't hurry. You all have to be buried with me today." The fireballs exploded. Near the Kier epidemic, the photographer used a love photo to escape. I came out and said I almost died. Fortunately, we reacted quickly, then shout out the sword. The sword now holds the sword to block the ghost's throat. Listen to the photographer. The ghost saw the sword retreating in surprise. What's below? Photographer, I've thrown 2 balls over here towards the ghost. He was surprised to say, "This little devil can avoid my poison." And then those 2 balls explode. I looked up a little excited. Did it explode? But the ghost landed on the ice. He is constantly angry. 6 immediately dropped his head down. He looked at Li in his head. This kind of powerful astringent aesthetic. Even as a sculptor, the difficulty is extremely high. He can't have much. He jumped up and said, "Let me see how many toys you have. Just die." And then spat out countless poisons from his hands. aimed at the photographer. I saw the poison coming to the photographer in a hurry. He frowned and turned himself into a panda. He threw out countless spheres and said there were many. Look at the balloons coming. The ghost of heaven is scared to the green face, screaming. Leaves the ghost face raw. Then panicked, screaming so much. Avoid. When he saw the Kia running away, he shouted. Don't run. When I heard it, the ghost started to scream again. The photographer hugged a bunch of spheres and yelled, "A." The next morning, I was afraid to drop my pants. He galloped away to dodge the spheres. He also opened his mouth to scream. Photographer, two-hand brandished, throwing a bunch of balls up. I saw countless spheres flying up. The ghost of heaven said that much. The spheres here lost momentum and fell. The devil believes that mankind has weapons. As much magic power as this SAO. Why don't you directly destroy the animal? I saw the spheres fall into the snow without exploding. He stopped and thought, then he thought. Maybe he doesn't have that much energy. The bastard dared to deceive me. He must be confident. Then come back laughing. Then he reached out to the bridges that had fallen. Like those aerosol balls just shatter. The ghost screamed out loud that these haunts were indeed fake. See that the broken spheres didn't explode. He thinks my stomach knows. He can't have that much at all. He is confident to get back up. Then he turned angrily to look at the photographer. Loud voice, you are surely dead. He said. He rushed to the photographer. The photographer threw out the spheres and asked out loud. You're not afraid of death. The leaves of heaven screamed. Your false reputation is useless. Little devil fucking. The angry ghost. Put your hands up and throw the spheres out and say, get out. Suddenly, a ball near him flashed. An explosive explosion directly pressed the ghost down. He made a miserable sound. And then the body gets knocked down through a snowy mountain and slid on the snow. The ghost takes a long way, revealing the soil beneath the thick snow. He almost fainted, his eyes spinning. You see that, say the opportunity. Out of your shirt, you take out more real orbs. Fly towards him. The horse is now up. He was angry and said the boy dared to hide the real thing. Really? Not finished, then he saw countless glowing spheres and rushed to Quinn. A sound echoed. There was a huge explosion that enveloped an entire area. The ghost's body has been tossed away. The photographer exclaimed and said that he had to win new tricks. Then you're back in human form. The snow is on me. Then suddenly come back. It is hard to understand when you see the picture. IP Death Dance and so on. The 6 adventurers and the La Min were all stupidly watching. The photographer scratched his head and asked why. 6 adventure fun to talk to photographer. What are those toys? Even the legendary animal also plays the body. 6 adventurers eager to jump. Say, give me 10. The photographer was so shocked that he opened his mouth. If there were so many, I wouldn't have to use a fake. You are ready, please? 6, he laughed again. He. Then come closer and say, 2 minus 30 tablets is enough. Photographer turns the speaker. These things can't be used by you either. It contains the power of our laws and our Kai. Only we can use it. 6 more stories. I'm going to go to war with some nerds. Stopped talking less. I stood next to the photographer. What's the background of those 2 animals? The photographer explained. They are the lovers of the Black Quan. He is the enemy of the universe. She said sadly, I'm sorry I involved you. Park Z smiled warmly in response to the dance. Don't be polite. They are all from one family. Then the AI says, okay, we're on our way. I looked over and saw the photographer digging. Find something. 6 puzzling adventures, asked photographer, or doing something there. The photographer replied while digging. I love dead animals. Then we'll pick up the bodies and see if there's anything. Then you complain. Oh, it's all blown up, and there's only 3 of these left. Look at the underground bridge. You sew up 6 Zuzhou good things here, put it away. He picked up the sword and said to Zoe. There are also legendary weapons. It's about to go viral in you. The photographer picked up a stick and said, the black dragon has given the sword. You can laugh and talk and go. 6, I can't see it. It's a spicy thing. The group continued on their way to a stream. The photographer is coming. At the same time in a distant state. In the Holy Father-Son, Vang. Inside that thick layer of ice and snow. There's a young man standing inside. He opened his mouth. It's true that idiots can't watch the dance. Let her run away. Was killed again. His eyes are white, and he is a monster. Then he pondered and asked, what is the purpose of your trip, Vudim? The field thinks so. He said he wanted to seek protection. Sao old boss, it is true that I am not his opponent. But don't think you're safe. His eyes lit up. For thousands of years we've been hiding here, just waiting. That day comes, that day is not far away. A lotus flower suddenly appeared. Look at the flower in front of him. We start counting 1, 2 wings at a time. On the 6th wing, the flower closed. He looked at the flower smiling. Waiting for the 7 lotus petals to bloom, you all have to die. Move the scene to the 9 grave zone. Materials of the World Heritage Site. All of the great powers of the Ming domain are gathered here. Because I want to be the successor of the false master. The servant ran to the newspaper with the owner. The boys are back. Yell out loud. At this time, another subordinate is leading the way. Take the photographer to La Tiu's place. He said, please come over here. To the farce I just met. He greeted the sage regent. If you see a joke, you are happy to end it. This is my friend. Laughing happily said, I can't believe you're also interested in the 9. These people are your friends. He stood up and confirmed that. They're all our friends. More. I didn't say all the jokes that reminded my subordinates. You're stopping them from coming in. Photography for everyone. They are all my brothers in the Holy Land. Glance at the mullet silently thinking. These boys were young, and the VI was so strong. And then the photographer pointed at the phlegm and said, that's my fiancé. The red-faced man was afraid to scream. I'm happy to say, nice to meet you. There's a lot of smoke going up in this dead end. It's like there's a volcano. 6 of them sniffed the strange smell, and he screeched. The world smells so much sulfur. South Guard set in, but there's no fear of being attacked by a predator. He advised the photographer to take it. The present condition of the completely sage regent. You don't have to risk going to 9 different places. He added that this place is not safe. Calm down and go to the end. We're just here to join the fray. No wonder. If you listen to that, you can rest assured. He laughed, haha, that's good. Suddenly, the photographer was right. Why people have not yet entered the 9 death zones. Laughing reply. Now is not the time. The photographer was surprised. Normal explanation. We can only go into 9 gravity zones. The first floor. From the first floor to the next. You have to go through a lot of space. It took months to get to the 6th floor. He continued, but at 12:03, 9 days after the death, the 7th floor will open. You can go directly to the 7th floor. Other side, IP Death and Pepper Stop Nie is visiting around. The truth is that it is a mysterious place. When you stop, you cry out loud. Listen to the explanation. But the photographer also understands that Ra is what Ra says. How to finish the 7th floor. Listen to me explain more. 9. The capital is the ancient battlefield. Countless fake powers have died. Over tens of thousands of years of accumulated gases that form. You keep talking, but from the 7th floor up. The other places are not the same. False Master's domain brings the 7th floor. 8th and 9th floor. It's a field that he absolutely controls. In this field, all the rules are laid down by him. Each time the Master chooses a disciple, the situation is not so similar. Current rule. I don't know what kind. Every time we enter a floor, in there, the Master of the False Order will appear. Tell us the first rule for choosing disciples. It was 15 years ago. Vietnamese exclamation 15. Look, there's not a lot of competition. The joke continues. Normal, a false leader every time he recruits a disciple. He said in hundreds or even thousands of fake powers. He also chose Ra to have an heir. When the photographer heard it, he was amazed. Tell the photographer who picked this up. Give me an order in front of you. This is a special order from the Magic Seal auction room. Just hold this. Normal people would not dare to touch it. He seriously said, now the fake powers are coming here. There are also many gods. If you are in trouble, you can use this command. The problem will be largely solved. Take the card and listen to its use. I agree. La Tu, say more. God Seal auction room is the auction room in the top of this sector. It also has a certain status in the field. We can coordinate with them. You're lucky that it's written on your weapon. To sit at a round table. The joke continues. Next few days, you'd better wait in the barracks. You shouldn't go out. Outside, good bad mixed, extremely chaotic. Be more careful. I heard that, the photographer said. Thank you, La Urge reminder. I'll pay attention and tell him that. I'll arrange a place for everyone. The photographer replied, disturbing is over. Into the tent. The photographer poked his head out of the tent and was amazed. It's all fake gas. They're all fake gods. The position of this air is fascinating. I'm bored to say. It will be great to be in SAO training camp for the next few days. Suddenly, the photographer's handwriting ring was moving. The egg just appeared under the hand. The photographer looked at the egg and said suddenly, it's still small cracks. Holding the egg, he said, along the way here, I don't know how many rules I gave him. Kai power is still not blooming. You're hugging the egg like you want to hatch it. You said the heart rate is getting stronger. The feeling of the relationships between us. And it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Whatever you are my son. The retreat continues. Power transfer to the egg. The tent gave off a yellow light. Suddenly, the rumbling sound. 6 adventure scissors bamboo fabric raw call photographer. The photographer just saw the photographer empty his ass. Out the door is a strange position. The 6 adventurers also ran out of words to stand in the picture. The embarrassed photographer looked back and asked why. 6 responses. I just heard some news. There are a lot of young people now. Go to the first level of the 9 gravity fields. The next 6 stories are said to find the spirit of something. You can improve the VI. Quickly dance in the closet out. Surprised to say, that's a very rare thing. She continued, it is said to grow only in the bones of the false Kwang. But the spirit is an extremely pure thing. It's like snow and ice, if you can really find the real ones. It will be of great benefit to your brother. Say not. You also said it can directly make you break the legend. Surprised, he asked if there was any. It's such a good thing. 3 days after the 7th floor opened, now that there is a spiritual fruit coming, then the action becomes more certain. Talk about here. Get up quickly. Go out and talk. You said 6. Let's call the trash people out. 6 surprising adventures asked. Your sword is hanging behind you. The photographer yelled out loud, come on. That's today. The crew of the Renegade departed to 9 localities. 6 is not careful. Hit a lead on the road. Look down at the feet. 6 shouts. Quickly tell the skeleton. I'm sorry, the girls are scared too. The snow screeched, don't scare me. 6, but I didn't. He threatened you. He threatened you. And suddenly, I'm thinking, luckily, this place is crowded. Luke trembled and said that all along the way there were scary death gases. But not ordinary people can come. You said you didn't feel. The fog is getting thicker. SAO. 6 exciting adventures. Remind them all to stay awake. We must be in the 9-day dead zone. Being reminded, 6 adventurers also become more alert. I looked around and saw the fog. The Kier people gradually into the fog of fading humanity. I turned my head to look back. The people in front are gone. 6 screams, where are the kids in front of you? What's the matter with Park Z? People around SAO don't see AI anymore. She reminded everyone to be careful. It's fog everywhere. It's easy to get lost. This fog will soon melt away. If we get lost, let's get together. At the entrance, he reminded himself that he had not heard 6 stories. 6 adventurers also shouted at the photographer. Photography is done and disappears. The photographer is amazed to get lost. He looked next to me and asked for the sword. Did you see 6? The sword is also gone. Hurry up and call the sword. Then I hurried back and looked. You scream for death. And then he came back to say, Regent. The photographer gripped her hand. You said to hold my hand. The kids here are anxiously calling. The photographer heard. He hands out in a hurry to stop. Hold my hand and stop. But the baby is gone. IPZ anxiously said that he could not see everyone anymore. Where are they going? Harry closed his eyes for a moment. What to tell IPZ and so on. You can't feel the spirit of the war. They're just around here. At this point, he also realized that you can feel their existence. That is, the photographer holds the hand of IP to Van and Ga Mo, says, let's get out of this fog. You said hold on to me. Death is a small thing. The wind has flown to find its way. An hour later, the photographer exclaimed, oh. The fog is gone. The fog cleared, and a column of red light appeared in front of him. You said red light, Kier pure energy too. Are you wondering what the sign of something is? IP looked to the side and said, a lot of people go there. You go back to the photographer. But when I come back, I saw the photographer running ahead and saying, follow me quickly. After a while, everyone gathered on a lake. There's a red glow down there, some of the guys said. I can't believe 9 stratigraphic neutrons at a time. They hide the treasure like that. The gas is pure. It's absolutely non-trivial. The man standing next to him replied, but no one dared to go down there, watching the guy anxiously talk, even if it's just the first floor. But these are the 9. Who knows what's dangerous in the water? Let's wait for the mouse. Kier agreed with the correct answer. There's a redhead now. There are 2 overbearing crests that say stand there blankly. What are you doing? Somebody get down there and pick me up. An entourage standing next to the red-haired overlord spoke up. Master, I remember. 9 years ago, there used to be red light like today. There was a rumor that there were treasures under this lake. He glanced at her and asked, oh. Then the entourage replied. And then there were the false gods who came to investigate. It's just that the red light is gone, nothing's found. The red-haired man was silent for a moment. Then look at the lake. And say that even faster. The surprised servant let out a loud cry. Yeah, but he was grabbed by the red shirt and thrown into the lake. He said, get your stuff up here. The servant was thrown into the water. He pulled it up. The crowd is eager to follow. Did you find anything? The servant plucked up his courage and shouted, I'm down here. And then he leaned deep into the water. The red-haired young man began to wait for a long time, but never saw the subordinates rise. This guy is getting impatient. Suddenly, the balloon doesn't stop buzzing. Everyone's worried. More and more air bubbles rise. The guys above are afraid to say why. Only a trace of blood emerged. This proves to be terrifying down there. The crowd was scared to the green. The young master was so angry that he gritted his teeth and said hateful things. Then he glanced back at his followers. Immediately, the subordinates were threatened to back down in fear. The others started asking each other. They're the fake AI Black Kim that he threw down. The guy next to him said he didn't even know why. He is the hero of the universe. The other guy heard that and said Chen's in the drive. When I mentioned his name, I was impressed. He's called the #1 genius in the world. Intelligence of the blood of the race. And when I heard that, the whole crowd started to wonder and run away together. It makes people not understand what's going on. Right now in the back. I looked up and said it has been a long time. No one has come down yet. IPZ said unpleasantly, these people despise human life. Even the gods of the world. I wouldn't kill my people like that. The photographer explained, he's not a man. His ears are long and pointed. IPZ timidly shouted at the photographer. The wounded man is now silent. Suddenly, there's a name for you. That doesn't make any sense. Let's go down and find the treasure. A white-haired man said proudly. It's about the treasure belonging to AI. We divide later. Smart enough to see him grinning at the grave. Then Smart said, even if you dare, I wouldn't dare. The grave opened for an hour. I can only see you taking off your coat. He threw himself into the lake. The grave said, the armor of the soul of the dancer. And the grave makes a beautiful pose and jumps down. Dancing and talking very well Smart. The photographer is close. A hard-faced cat to ask CA. Who are you? The cat looked back at the photographer and moaned contemptuously. Don't answer and turn away. The photographer saw the change and then reappear in the form of a panda. And he kept asking CA, who's Kier? The cat is still pouting. I turned around and saw that panda face. This time he answered. The spirit of the grave. It's also a super genius. It's just a regular retreat. From small to large, there is very little exposure. They don't know his true identity. To reach what kind of level? The photographer looked up. Suddenly, someone in front of me is talking. Someone jumped again. Then the crowd scrambled to dance. They said, "Don't waste my treasure." The other guy replied, "Don't underestimate me. If another guy says he's good, just show up." So we're all diving into the water. The rest of the guys on the shore yelled, "That's really big. AI knows what kind of scary creatures are hiding in here." The calm water suddenly began to boil. The people on the shore are afraid to step back. The waves have hit the shore. Then the water's rising one by one. At last, a rustling sound. Under the water, there's a giant beast. The crowd was screaming that the exam was running so fast. They all ran together and refused to die. The dog is also afraid to say shit. The crowd rushed past the two. I was wondering what the exam was. The photographer explained that the tiger is a snake-loving species, growing inside thousands of bodies. The body finally takes shape. It's a kind of psychic organism. Normal adult delivery exam. The power has reached the level of transmission. He said he's taking exams every 1,000 years. There will be a jump. If we reach 1,000 years, you can't fight the gods. They don't have to be afraid of that either. The longer you live, the smaller your body is. This one is probably not 1,000 years old. But that red jewel doesn't look normal. That's why there's that red light. The knife roared for an hour. Then lift yourself up, make the water drop. The knife began to crawl on the water, to rush ashore. People are also ready to fight. It's a treasure on its head. We also have a chance to win. Death asked in bewilderment, from a piece of red chestnut. Eject the force that shocks it. What the hell is that? I don't know. I'm worried about who's coming. You don't know either. The history and use of the land. The photographer exclaimed. We don't even know the existence of this place. Suddenly, the knife thundered loudly. Make the photographer to embrace the protection of Anne. I look up. In the middle of the knife is a ball. It's its attack on people. Gao flew out of the water, then launched the move towards the crowd. The terrified people shouted. A pull-together run, was hit by the water and fell to the ground. The competition continued to spray water raw aimed at the people. I see more water every day. The photographer was surprised to ask who it was hitting. Now one of them has got water on him. There was a smoke above him. The rustling sounds are echoing. The photographer was somewhat afraid and surprised. Then I saw the big water ball is rushing towards me. You scream, it's not okay. Then hastily hugged the spade and said carefully. She screamed to protect the gods. The protective circle appears to protect you and the water. Hit to get you and her rolling on the ground. Protective ball rolling away a piece, and fell into a hole and stopped. The photographer said, fortunately, not hit in the face. Otherwise, the backing is eroded. The Lord of Heaven just opened his eyes right now. She screamed at the photographer. She blushed, said photographer. Get up quickly, Raw. The photographer's hands were resting on IP's chest. The woman stood up and looked at her blushing face. I shyly scratched my head laughing ha ha ha. Speak out of will. I can't laugh anymore, I'm afraid. Ipitsu hesitantly replied, yes. Suddenly, there was a violent shake. Careful reminder of the glass. This delivery competition is very corrosive. I'll hold you up and tell you to stay away. The boundaries of photography also melt away. IPZ anxiously agreed. On the ground right now where the corrosion. The smoke is rising. People who can escape are also sitting up. Dark-faced wounded soldier slammed him seriously cold. This guy threw a hand, and then hit out a ball towards your opponent. When he was hit, he roared and whipped the tail. One name, his subordinates could not escape being beaten, and the blood flowed away. Smart to see that. I am angry that this guy is good. Help one more treasure fighter. The people who loved me screamed. The winter season also brings the juniors. They all attack the competition together. The photographer is hiding behind a large rock watching. He commented that he was borrowed by the top schools. The exam can't resist. You keep talking, oh, I can't wait to see the stone fall into their hands. The officer here is growling furiously. His eyes were yellow. Then the jewel on its head glowed. The waves are running along his body. Changed to bright red. It roared and plunged into the water. That way, its tail can even hit some enemies. Smart saw that, startled out, huh? Then, two wise men in a grave land together. The grave looks like the treasure is not easy to get. Love min, spicy but cold. The photographer is still watching, he said. That jewel works like that, sao. Suddenly, he is confused about what he feels. That's right, this gas. Look closely at the photographer. And IP Death Van is equally annoying, to say IP Han. I can see the guy here is looking at him. So he turned his head and looked. He thinks this place will meet you. It's a narrow alley. He said with a cruel face, if you lead the body to death, don't blame me. Then Han turned and left. The photographer said this guy was being dangerous. What is he going to do? I was talking to the Demon King. They are the, he said, dance master. Those two are from Kwang Wei Kai City. If you listen to dance, tilt your head and say, Kwang Wei Kai City. And then he looked at the two of you. IP Tavan has a feeling of anxiety. Ballerina licks lips, lustfully speaking. The woman of humanity is in DTOA. So they sniffed at each other. Name. So I asked the two of them how powerful they were. IP Han replied, don't look at them as children. As far as I know, they've reached the golden rank. She laughed and said angrily, do not cut gold SAO level. You can dare to go. Like this, Han said in a stammering sweat. Maybe they have risen to the level of Black Kim. There's no way we're leaving soon. Maybe they're with some other fake. Then he said, follow me. The dark face called the photographer again. She held the snow in her hand and said, they're coming. Refrigerated dehumidifier. He said, I'm not afraid of the devil. I'm afraid he just saw me turn around and run away. Get out in front of people. Very angry face with a loud voice. Come out here for me. IP Han hid behind the dance and startled himself. Dance thought secretly is Black Kim level. Cold voice photographer. You'll not escape today. IP Han replied to the photographer. You're a little too excited. What do you think you have here? Angry photographer hedgehog.